Nick Lowe,
What's up?
what's happening, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
You know what? I'm cold, wet. My feet are a little wet, not gonna lie. Other than that, I'm doing all right. Thank you for joining us here in rainy Vancouver. I know you were just down in LA a little while ago. You're in Toronto the other day. You're popping all over the place. I appreciate you sitting down for hopefully a little while.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to share my story and talk to you a little bit.
Tell you what, man. When I think about Nick Lowe, I think about hashtag be like Nick Lowe.
Right.
You're a trend, man. Like you're trending. That's what is hashtag be like Nick Lowe? I mean, what is that?
Yeah, I don't.
How did that happen?
One of the girls that works for me, mostly she's just messing with me. You know,
Fuck, but it caught.
I'm kind of like this mystery guy on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't talk a lot, but I write a lot, and I guess my team just loves to make fun of me. So I love taking pictures of my shoes. So it started out with me taking pictures of my shoes. I actually used to post about shoes because I have a sneaker.
Are you a sneakerhead?
I'm a bit of a sneaker, not like crazy sneakerhead, but I like sneakers. I like kicks. I'm a basketball guy. All
I
basketball
like
guys.
sneakers.
Yeah, if you grow up a basketball guy, you like kicks.
Yeah,
right?
you're in love. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. I get it.
So
Hell yeah.
I basically every morning before a run, I'd always take a picture of my shoes and I would just like write something small. And I did that like every single day. I used to run a lot, and then
Used to.
I still do.
It's cold outside.
It's cold outside.
It's cold as hell outside.
But
How
yeah,
much do you
whenever.
run?
These days I try to get out 3 to 4 days a week. But distances are different, right? I just do whatever I can.
That's a good question. What's a good distance for you?
These days, if I can get out for anywhere from 7K to 15.
Shit.
15 on the weekends.
Right.
I try to get out every day before work
Which is when it's cold as hell out.
when it's cold as hell. So I don't obviously get around to it a lot these days. I've actually been getting more into basketball
Because a gym is warm.
because the gym is warm. And it's just like fun for me again. I used to play a lot of basketball growing up. So
Hell yeah.
it's just getting a sweat just like everybody else, right?
Yeah, totally. So Nick, you're like, the fans and the listeners would have already heard an intro, but like from your words, what are your pillars? Like you're a visionary, you're a brand guy, you're a movement guy, you're a communicator, you love to give back. Like there's so many different things that you are. Like, do you have like an elevator? Like if you were to meet like Kobe Bryant in an elevator and be like, okay, Nick, what's your deal? Like what the hell would you say?
Oh, that's tough.
Like I've listen, man. I know you, and I have no idea. Like it would take me 3 minutes of thinking about it to even formulate something. You're a lot of things, man.
I am, but in an elevator pitch, that's.
Maybe not an elevator pitch, but
I mean, a lot of what I've become has evolved over the years. I obviously started out as a physiotherapist. And now I'm still a physiotherapist, and that's obviously my passion. That's why I got into physiotherapy in the first place. But I think my goal right now is evolved a lot into really trying to support the people that have supported me. That's a big part of who I've become, especially in the last year. I have a massive team, and you know, I go home at night and I actually think about them a lot, right? And because everyone's always wondering, like, you know, when is this guy gonna stop? This guy works so hard,
right.
and he's always like, you know, cooking in the kitchen, you know, which is like every day I'm trying to make things better, whether it's you know, on the physio side, on the business side, the entrepreneur side, just constantly trying to improve things. And you know, you become obsessed with it, of course. And for a long time, I was very obsessed with it. And I still am. But these days, I guess what defines me is, you know, trying to support the dreams of everyone who supports mine. And that's a tip that I give a lot of entrepreneurs these days. So what makes a good entrepreneur? How do I just make sure you genuinely care about people? you could say you care about people, but I don't believe that everyone truly does. I want more than anything for the people who constantly have supported me in this journey to be able to, touch the sky.
Totally.
That's what I always say. I want people to be able to touch the sky, and whatever that means to them. Right.
Right. Totally. I hear you, man. I hear you. Yo, you want to pull that mic a little bit closer to your
Sure.
I know it's intimidating. I know. Trust me. I get real. I put the baritone voice on in here. No, I'm joking, but listen, it's funny for the listeners. Like we didn't, before Nick just came on here, we didn't have that conversation. You might have thought that we did, because the last podcast we just did, that was the whole fucking theme. Literally, it was Kevin Hahn was asking me on the last podcast, like what are your takeaways after 25 episodes with Vancouver, like iconic figures in Vancouver, and a lot of people that have done a lot with their lives. The number one takeaway for me is just like literally at every stage of life they care, like they still care.
Right.
They still care.
Right.
They might even care more. They probably do care more.
Absolutely.
Just like the skill, the tangible skill of being a genuine human.
Yep.
Like it's almost as if the people that are doing it, air quotes, right, in my perspective, are the people that are leveling up their tangible skills, their communicative skills, and whatever their craft is, but also their skill of being a genuine human.
Right.
That's like so tangible, and you can feel it in the room.
Right.
Point in case Joey Haywood.
Yes.
Point in case Joey Haywood. Joey
Yes.
Haywood walks in this exact room 2 weeks ago, and we had, 8 people in here, and everyone was like, wow, like there's an energy there.
Right.
There's an energy there, and like that ability, like it's not taught, you can't teach it. It's just, it comes intuitively.
Right.
And that's something that you get with your physiotherapist and
Yes.
with your RMTs and things like that. You really get that feeling of like, okay, let's sit down, let's talk about it.
Right.
Like honestly, like I've been to a lot of physios. I've been to a lot of client-facing work,
Yep.
and I'm in a client-facing business as well. And people might come in and just want answers right away. And it's like, well, to be honest with you, like I don't have an answer for you right away, because I haven't asked the questions, and I haven't probed, and we haven't tested. Like we don't know what's wrong with it. Oh, you have pain in your glute? Okay, well, why?
Totally.
Right? Like let's take 30 minutes and figure it out. And then and you take the time to diagnose these problems. That's what attracted me to the whole thing of Myo. So but I want you to get into that a little bit of, like I said, you might go into another physio, and then it's okay, your glutes tight. Okay, well let's check out your hamstring. Let's check out your hip mobility. Let's check out your hip flexor, and then let's stretch each of those individually. You have a very connected way of, I want to say diagnosing, but also strengthening and also stretching, like
Sure.
the body holistically. It's a completely different methodology. So for someone that has no fucking clue about what I'm talking about and how poorly I just explained it, what's your methodology at Myo, and how did you develop it?
I'd say at Myo, it's evolved a lot. It's constantly evolving. It's constantly trying to improve what we do, number one. The idea of having 30-minute and 60-minute sessions is something that I've done since I started my own company, which was back in 2011, because the 30 and 60 minutes is that important for that one-on-one. Like you said, it's what we call discovery, right? You have to get to know somebody. You got to understand their goals. You have to know kind of why they're even there in the first place. Yeah, my knee hurts. Yeah, my glute is tight, or whatever you want to call it. But truly, like, why are you actually here? So that's number one. That's never changed since the first day I started. So that 30 and 60 minutes is very big in our company. And
so when you say why are you really here, you mean like what's your psychological, like what's making you pick up the phone or make the booking?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Okay.
And we spend a lot of time basically getting to know people. They always say most healthcare professionals, I forgot what the stat was, but I think it was like 12 seconds or 13 seconds.
Did they diagnose, or what?
That healthcare professionals cut off the patient or client while they're talking. So it usually takes 12 to 13 seconds before healthcare professionals will stop them.
Right.
Not necessarily stop them, but,
Yeah.
Interrupt, right? And it's something we teach a lot in our team to listen, right? And you can't listen in 15 minutes or 20 minutes and, try to assess somebody, try to treat them, try to give some, if you're doing hands-on work, do some hands, it's hard. And, I worked in a lot of clinics that had these kind of constraints to allowing me to get to know people and kind of figuring out their why. So at Myodetox, we spend a lot of time to figure out people's why. Like you mentioned, we have a very integrated approach. So we integrate before we isolate. What that means is we look at the
Damn, okay. That's a line right there.
That's a line right there.
Okay. Integrate before you isolate.
Yeah. So, backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
As a physiotherapist, in school, you're taught to isolate. What that means is you're taught all the details of everything, right? You're taught to, figure out different parts of the body, separate it. Now you're going to separate upper body compared to lower body. Now we're going to go into shoulder. Now we're going to go into the muscles. Now we're going to go into the ligaments, then the joints, then the bones, then the nerves.
Right.
Right. So it's like
layers.
layers.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's how you learn. I get it. I'm not saying it's wrong.
That's how you learned.
That's how I learned.
Yeah.
That's how physio learned. That's how, healthcare professionals learn. We have an anatomy book and we study it and we memorize a lot of things, and that's how things are diced up, right? The way we teach at Myodetox is to understand the body as a whole in a way that's very unique, of course. I always tell people it's like, think of the body as a phone, right? Like an iPhone.
Okay.
I use an iPhone. I'm not a Samsung guy. I'm an iPhone guy.
All right, you just lost half the listeners. Great. That's it. Can't trust them.
But if you're thinking about a phone, everything that's developed in your body is considered hardware.
Okay.
Everything that's learned is considered software, right? So if you have a phone, it's brand new in the case. It's perfect, right? Because you have developers that put everything that's inherent in the phone. Then over time, you download things. You download an app that's called basketball. You download another app that's called CrossFit. Another app might be soccer. Another app might be tennis, right? Over time, you download all these apps. And I always ask all my clients, how much time do you spend upgrading your apps? And how much time do you spend upgrading your phone? Right? And to me, and I'm just straight up with my clients, right? I'm like our job in Myo is to reprogram your hardware, not upgrade your apps, right? But if you come in for a session, you're saying your phone is a little glitchy and you're willing to turn it off and turn it back on. What usually happens? It might work.
Might not.
It might not.
Yeah.
Right? And then you do that enough times and it's still totally messed up or it doesn't work, then what do you typically do? You bring it to Apple or Samsung or whatever.
Say it's broken.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what do? They either tell you to get a new phone or they'll do a factory reset.
Problem is we can't get new phones or do factory resets.
Exactly.
Or maybe you can do a factory reset.
Or maybe you can do a factory reset, right? But the point is, a lot of people are walking around with, say, an old model. And it's you're trying to download the latest apps for an iPhone 7.
Doesn't work.
Well, not really, because the latest app was developed for iPhone 10, not iPhone 7, right? So when you go out and play basketball, you play basketball play basketball, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're constantly upgrading your app, but you're not upgrading your phone.
Right. So you're limited.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just straight up. I'm like, you come in for a little on-off switch, or can you give me 4 weeks? Can you give me 6 weeks where we actually delete your apps? I don't want you actually playing basketball. I don't want you. And that's tough, right?
Conversation to have.
Of course. But it's like, think about a brand new phone and you're not allowed to download apps.
Yeah.
You're not even allowed to put Instagram on.
Yeah.
And you know, that's...
I can't do the one thing that I love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, how long can you last with a phone with no Instagram? Most people, not even a day.
Yeah. Crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, of course you have to play basketball, but I just tell it as it is. It's like, we're trying to reprogram your movement. That's hardware.
Yeah.
Right? Something like walking and running is not something you learned. That's something that was developed, right? Because as we develop, like from a baby, from an infant, you have reflexes. And those reflexes, eventually, as you develop, they go away. Mm-hmm. But you never taught a baby how to walk.
No.
They just...
put one foot in front of the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? You don't go, hey, can you put your heel down and then...
your toes, and then the other one, and
Exactly. All you say is, come on.
Yeah.
You could do it.
And it happens.
And then it happens,
Are
right?
you a dad, Nick?
I'm actually not a dad. I'm actually not a dad.
Okay. All right.
But I have 2 beautiful nieces.
There you go.
And and
that was real instinctual for you. I'm just saying, that's all I'm saying. I don't know.
But I study a lot of human movement.
Right.
Because I'm a physiotherapist, of course.
Of course.
But certain things are inherent, right? And certain things we learn. And the things that are inherent and developed are things like walking and running and sprinting, et cetera, et cetera. And those movement patterns are hardwired in our system. But over time, as we layer on apps, as we layer on the things that are fun in life, then, you just end up with a phone that's a little bit glitchy.
Right. Because you've overloaded it, or you've used one thing too much. You've downloaded too much, info or data on your Clash of Clans, and it's taken over your whole phone, or you got too many photos, or whatever it may be, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so I get it. So there's a certain amount of layering there. But let me play devil's advocate a little bit. So yes, you have a hardware that you develop and you grow through naturally, and those are your basic movement patterns. And then as you specialize, and those are your apps, and you kind of develop those and continue to upgrade and get purchases, but you're not necessarily looking back at, okay, there's not a functionality here. Cool. But I'll counteract that and say, for instance, I was told once that I run wrong.
Right.
You run wrong.
Right.
And what my physio in Denmark at the time said, well, listen, like you're heel striking. Right. You're just pounding. You're just pounding your joints constantly. And I'm like, well, that's how I've always ran.
Right.
So what do you say to that?
So again, complicated to explain over a podcast, but how we look at things is that your system always knows best.
Yeah.
Right? Meaning if you're running and you're heel striking, that is the best way for you to run at that moment in time. Right?
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that, because your system's main function is to protect you and prolong your life. Right? So when you look at somebody run, and I treat a lot of runners as well, and a lot of them come in and ask the same question, like, hey, Nick, what's the best way to run? I read this book. They said maybe going like more 4-foot striking is better for you. Like in theory, there's a lot of things that could be better for you, I guess, right? But how the best way for you to run is to go out and run and not think about it. That's the best way for you to run, because as soon as you try to do something more intentional, then you're going against what your system wants to do, right? So our goal at Myo is to be able to create that environment for you to potentially run better, right? But that requires work. It's not just something magical we do. It's the way we assess. There's a system that we use in how we look at your body and why you run this way, right? Again, it's like you can think about the what. I'm heel striking, right? Or which might cause, et cetera, et cetera. But our question is always, why do you heel strike? Right? There's got to be a reason.
What is the listen? Like, what is the answer? Like, what is the answer to that question?
The answer to the question is it's trying to protect you. And then you ask why is it trying to protect you by heel striking?
Yes, which is killing my knees.
Which is killing your knees.
Yes.
So if we can open your system,
yes,
and allow you to use more of your system, then you probably wouldn't heel strike anymore.
Right.
It's just, for whatever reason, it feels threatened to go into another position, right? And it could be because you've sprained your ankles a lot, because I know you play basketball.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe on one side it's worse than the other side.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know. You come in, and that's the discovery phase. We discover why you run a certain way, or why you stand a certain way, why your posture is a certain way, why you're, you know what I'm saying?
All that. No, I totally get it. So, but there's a disconnect there. So for an ape like me, I think of that and say, okay, heel striking is bad. And I read the books too. And again, like, you know, the power of your toes and getting a wide grip and things like that, getting balance and stability through the front of your foot, utilizing your arc. Not like I used to heel strike, and then I would just go on the outside of my foot. It was horrific, right? And so I'm like, okay, bad. That's bad. Okay. Dumbass like me can figure that out. That's bad. Okay. I was told that's bad. You read it. That's bad. What's good? Good is the toes. So let's get to the toes. So a guy like me, I just, okay, so if that's bad and that's good, let's do the good thing, right? So you go ahead and I start, like, I'll run as well. Like, I'll play basketball, all that stuff. And I will start just being allergic to my heel, because, like, I'm one of those guys where you tell me not to do something. Okay, done. Like, switch. And it's gone. And I will do everything. And I'll still habitually go back to it. But as soon as I notice, like, I'm there, I'm out of it, right?
Right.
If I put importance on it, I'm there.
Right.
Now, what'll happen to me, and what's happening to me literally right now, is I'll get on, so I'll go for runs, and I will really try to put that weight on, what's this, not my heel, what's the one where my toes connect to? What is that? What's that?
Plantar fascia.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. The arch.
Yeah, the arch, right? And my toe. And so I'll start getting there, and then I'll start falling forward a little bit as I run, right? Which, read the book, okay, it's kind of makes sense.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, shin splints like crazy.
Yep.
Like crazy.
Yep.
And then I haven't got an x-ray yet, but I'm pretty sure I have a freaking hairline fracture in my freaking foot.
Sure.
Like, it hurts like hell.
That's not good.
It's not good, right? But, and then so there's a disconnect there is what I'm trying to say. Because I'm just like, hey, this is bad. This is good. Let's just go ahead and do the good thing.
Right.
That doesn't work. Why does that not work?
Right. Well, number one, because every individual is unique. That's very important to understand.
True.
Right. There's not a single person that's the same. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you read a book and there's a theory behind why, running a certain way or using a certain muscle is better for you, well, number one, that's a theory in the perfect world. Does everyone have a perfect, system? Mm-hmm. We always use the word system. I don't want to say body or muscle or whatever. So, do you have a perfect system? Well, the answer is no, because your past experiences will dictate how your system responds right now, right? So how you stand is not going to be like how I stand, but I can't just stand up straighter because it's good for me. My system perceives my environment and my past experience and everything that has happened to me to dictate that this is how I should stand right now, right? Mm-hmm. Again, our job at Myo is to figure out the why. Okay, cool. You stand like this, or you run like this, or you walk like this, right? It's because your system looks like this. Mm-hmm. Cool. Can we give you a new system? Now, if we can give you a new system, it's actually not us giving you a new system. It's both of us giving you that system together. Once you get that system, well, now just trust your system. Your system will find the new neutral or middle or least threatened state. Does that make sense?
No, that totally makes sense.
So we give you this new system. We give you a bunch of movements or exercises, integrated, global, whatever it is, to challenge your system. Oh, cool. Now, when you go for a run, well, you got to trust the system, right? You can't just run and try to, pull your back straighter or run and intentionally try to, use your toes more, there's a reason
why.
What does that even mean? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's a reason why it didn't want to do it in the first place.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
I totally get what you're saying. Like, even for basketball players out there, because there's a ton listening, like, a lot of guys are like, oh, I want to increase my vertical. And then they'll go and they'll try to jump and they'll try to jump and they'll try. They can't fucking jump. They can't jump. They can't get up there. And all of a sudden they go up there for a rebound and their head's at the rim. And they're like, what the hell? And I feel like that might have some of the same, like, similar sentiment there, where it's just like, when your body just knows how to go, it just goes. Yes. And when you're trying to push it in a certain direction, it's like, whoa, like, relax here. I don't want to do this. If I want to find a way to get up, I'm going to find a way to get up, because that's what's naturally right. And again, that's kind of like finding that middle ground and not necessarily pushing at one boundary to try to get it over, right? Yeah. So definitely, I mean, like, I'll get up for a rebound, and players will say this all the time, like, oh man, I could have just put that thing back right there. I could have just jammed that. Right. I can't even dunk, and it's just like, well, that's because you just kind of let go and you let it happen, right? So my experience with Myo is just, okay, go in there, be really, and this is the same way I approach training. Go in there, be really, really thoughtful and really intentional about your movements in that space. Yep. Like, it's really like you want to be uncomfortable and figure things out a little bit and say, oh shit, what is that feeling? Or, oh, I haven't felt that. Or how is this moving now? Oh, there's another muscle I haven't used in 10 years or whatever it may be. Like, how did I get that? Right. And then, be really thoughtful about how you're moving in those sessions and really aware. And then just don't think when you go out and do it. Exactly. Just just go, dude. Exactly. Just go. Because I've done it the other way around, where because I love thinking about it. And so I really enjoy the sessions we've had. I really enjoy it, right? Like, oh yes, I'm learning and I understand this. This is amazing. And then as I'm going, I'm like, okay, am I feeling this? Am I activating this way? Am I doing this right? And I'm like, fuck, it's just not coming together the way that I want it to. And I feel like my mind is just in between the movements that I want to get to. And I don't know, what advice would you give to someone that's literally their mind gets in the way of just them moving in the right way? Right. How do you get past that? For a guy like me, how the hell do you get past that?
You always have to trust your own system, number one, right? So if you're saying like, I can't jump that high, for instance, again, you always ask why, right? Is there a reason why, you're training, in theory, every single muscle that will help you jump higher, and you still can't jump any higher?
Fucking theory. Yeah, sorry.
Right? Yeah. Because again, like, when you're on the court and you're going up for a rebound or you're going in for a dunk, like, everything's going to come. Mm-hmm. Right? So, okay, let's just say you can't activate your glute muscle.
Sure.
Because that's common.
Super common.
Yeah. So, you go to the gym and you'll go strengthen your glute. You'll do all the glute exercises, right? Your crab walks, your squats with bands, there's a ton. Yeah. Bridges, tons of exercises that in theory activate your glutes.
That was yesterday. Yeah.
Right. So, and in theory, nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Right. Because in theory, it's a way to strengthen your glutes. But again, when you're on the court, and a ball's coming at you and you're running and you're going to try to go up and tip that ball in, go for a rebound or dunk. Well, there's a reason why certain muscles can work and can't work, because that's a very integrated movement, right? That is like, what does your hardware look like? Yeah. Can it even activate that glute, for instance, while you're doing that jumping? Yeah. Right? Just because you go to the gym and strengthen all you want, it doesn't mean it'll translate to that sport. Yeah. You really have to understand movement patterns and why certain things activate and certain things don't activate. Mm-hmm. So for somebody who can't do it, obviously I'm going to say you should get a session at Myo, but I don't want to say that, right?
Hey, it's cool, man. You're here for a reason, man. Plug. You guys are too busy anyways.
Sure, we're busy, but it's just trying to understand the why. I always tell people to understand the why, right? And go see a therapist, right? There's tons of great therapists out there. It doesn't have to be Myo. There's tons of good therapists out there. So go see somebody who understands it, right? Understands, when you're standing or when you're doing this particular motion, like, oh, there is something that's stopping it from, activating for whatever reason. And is it body? Is it mind? Well, it's actually one, right? Like, we love to separate. That's what it's like we isolate muscles, we isolate ligaments, we isolate whatever. We also isolate mind and body. Like, I personally don't believe you can separate those two. It's all one thing, right? It's not mind and body. It's not like mind over matter. It's just like one.
Yeah.
It's one system.
Yeah. You're a human. Like, there's many parts to you, and they all work together to keep you alive, really, initially. And then you try to, I don't want to say, you craft that into, a performance model, versus the basic model was maybe intended to be just to keep you alive, right? I mean, of course, we've moved past that a little bit now. I want to ask you a couple of surface level questions because, I think there's a lot of value in it, and I think you're the right guy to ask. I talk with a ton of players, and a lot of the time, you touched on it very briefly, like, you'll train in the gym, you'll train that muscle at the gym. You can't necessarily activate it on court. Or like you said, you're doing the crabs and you're doing the, using all the bands in the world, and you're doing all the explosive movement in the gym, and it's not translating on the court. And I feel like, so, the surface level answer is like, well, you need to do those movements on court. And then I'll feel like I've done both. Like, I've done both where I've been really heavy in the gym and gotten very strong. It can lift and push a lot of weight very quickly. And then that doesn't necessarily translate to quick, fast movements or smooth movements on the court. And then I'll go on court and I'll just solely work on those movements. Just pound.
Right.
Jump as high as you can, wear a weighted vest, anything. And I'll see tiny little marginal improvements. And every once in a while, throughout a training journey, you get to a point where you're not necessarily focused on one thing. You're not necessarily focused on the other. You're just kind of going at it.
Right.
And all of a sudden it clicks. And you're like, oh, shit. What was that? That was a moment where I really was athletic. I was athletic for that season, or I was athletic for that month. And then you can never like get it tangibly there. And then you're like, okay, well, I was athletic because I was in the gym, or I was athletic because I was doing this. And there's always seems to be a fucking disconnect there. So you're like, well, how do I get elastic? How do I get bouncy? And there's no, real answer from a player perspective. You're like, I just don't know. It's like a code I can't crack,
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's the whole thought of like strengthening something and then hopefully that translates to sport, like, doesn't make a ton of sense, right?
Right.
Because it's so isolated. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so make it make sense to me, because I'm like, okay, my knees hurt because I have no glute muscles. I have no hip flexibility. So strengthen those.
Sure. So that's
right?
where
little stone ape Joss is. Yeah.
So no, like, we like to think of pain.
Yes.
And really any sensation in the body as a perception. It's a message. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Right? So your knees hurt.
Yes.
There's a message being sent to really your brain, but your entire system, that particular emotion is causing a threat to my knee. Why is it causing a threat to my knee? Right? Is it squatting down and jumping up? Well, squatting down requires a lot of things to move together. For you, if that particular emotion starts to hurt, then you have to think, right, like, what is not moving so that my knee has to maybe move more than it should? That's when threat happens, when something maybe moves more than it potentially should. And I'm not talking just in the like range of motion sense or mobility sense, but in terms of like strength, in terms of, capacity, in terms of believing you could do it. All of those things, again, is one, right?
Right.
So again, it's fairly complicated, but we look at the body as like, you have a system and you have an environment. And when you look at that environment, well, you can keep strengthening that same environment, right? So if you look at it from like a global perspective, this is what you look like. All of those walls are perceptions of threat to your system, right? And 100% of the time, you're right in the middle of those walls because it's the furthest point from those walls, right? So 100% of your time, your system finds the least threatening state. When we stand a certain way. That's your least threatening state, right? When you walk a certain way. It's not like everyone else. Everyone's different, right? Because when you walk, you move within the system, right? And the walls would dictate how much you can actually move. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So if your system looks like this, like we're just going to draw a circle.
Little circle.
And jumping requires you to kind of move out here.
Outside of the circle.
Well, you can already imagine how much that wall can take, right? If that wall can take a lot, then maybe you can keep pushing through it. You're young, so probably.
Yeah.
A guy like me, like I'm old. So no, I don't think so. Right? 2 reps and my knees are ow. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Or like, can we open that system? Right? That's what I'm trying to talk about at Myo. Our framework of treatment and assessment is not really a how or what. It's understanding the why, understanding what people's system looks like in the first place. Let's understand this. Once we can understand that, then we can change that.
Create
people.
Space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is a big theme that I see through a lot of your work and your team's work is creating space, which is great because your whole model is, I don't know, I want to get into this too, but we're not done here, is blurring the lines between lifestyle and physio and lifestyle movement, right? It's great branding, as you know. We'll get into that later. Nice hat. Anyways, and so, yeah, there's that feeling of creating space within your body, creating space within your mind of like, oh, I actually can do this. I am flexible. I'm durable. I'm mobile. I can play different sports or do different movement patterns because I have space to do those actions within. It's a very beautiful concept. It's also a beautiful concept if you just talk about you have a space and you're in the point of least resistance from your fears, from your walls. It's the exact same thing in life. Like you're at a point naturally, like your physical self does one thing and your emotional and psychological self does the exact same freaking thing, which is stay away from danger, right? So find danger in a safe space, push out, and then all of a sudden you could accomplish a little bit more, which is amazing and has so many parallels to life, which is why, again, I think what you have is beautiful. If you look on like a multi-level approach of how you're doing branding and as well as your movement, your brand speaks exactly to the way your methodology and training is, but you don't understand that until you really get in a couple of sessions deep, and then it all kind of clicks for a second, and that's when branding becomes an act of mastery, right? Where your brands like, Nike have really done that beautifully, and I know that's they're the gold standard. But just I want you to speak to that a little bit more of when I try to explain what Myo's approach is or what your approach is. Again, you spoke to it in terms of isolation, right? Many physios are just isolating, or trainers are isolating here, and then asking the body to work collectively. Well, it doesn't work for a variety of reasons, as you just explained. When I try to explain it, I think the thing that comes to my mind is like it's a string theory. It's from my toe to my thumb, right? Yeah. It's through my spine. It's through every part of it. Exactly. Like my lungs and my toes are moving at the same movement, and I feel like a static energy throughout the whole system. Now, you didn't always think that way.
No.
And it's a methodology I'm still trying to understand from a physiological standpoint, right?
Right.
Because, again, I'm still at that stage like most people are. Well, okay, if I work on this and then I work on this and I work on this, they'll all work together, right? No. Answer is no. It takes a long time to get there. Right. What was your, and I don't know if you can backtrack like this, but maybe you can give a rough outline of like, so other people can try to follow the same path in terms of your thought pattern from when you initially got into it and what you thought movement was or what you thought rehab was, how you thought the muscles worked together and then evolved into this state. Now, I mean, you've been doing this for what? Like, I don't know, 15 years?
13 years.
13 years?
Physio,
yeah. So, I mean, you've been doing it for a long time.
Yep.
So there had to have been a progression in thought here, and maybe you can run us through what that progression of thought was. So a guy like me who's maybe at the start of that thought can maybe climb one step up in it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it goes way back, obviously. Like I mentioned before, as a student, you really you learn the systems, right? You learn your articular system, your myofascial system, you learn your nervous system, cardiovascular system. In physio school, you learn every system, and then you break down every system. Mm-hmm. You learn to isolate. And again, in school, we were always taught to isolate things, right? It's like find the details of what's wrong, right? It's like somebody comes in with a shoulder problem. We need to find the exact details of what's wrong because that's supposed to help with my treatment, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think that thinking is totally wrong. I think it's actually good to be able to know all that stuff.
100%, yeah.
Right. But how it was always done and taught, and like I worked as a physio for about 5 years before I started my own practice, was that you isolate, mm-hmm. and then you try to put it together in a global way, mm-hmm. right? It's like you'll do a bunch of stuff, you'll figure out exactly this ligament is injured, mm-hmm. right? And then you'll treat it, and then you'll prescribe exercises that's supposed to link that particular body part to the rest of the body. Hope the good physios will go and integrate that through a global movement pattern that's maybe similar to sport.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got to cut you off here because I'm just dying to ask this. So we'll go back to that right there, but right on that point you just said there. So a physio might prescribe a certain movement for this joint, this muscle that's inflamed or whatever. Yep. But if you talk about on a macro scale, on a philosophical scale, what is your job? Your job is to become obsolete. Am I wrong?
No.
Like your job is to come, let's figure it out, let's find solutions, and then go live your life, right? So essentially your job is to become obsolete after 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever the time frame is, right?
Yeah.
I had always, felt as if I'm going to a place, they're fixing one problem, but since one problem is just going to come right there, all of a sudden I have new power in that spot, which is now going to cause me injury in another fucking spot, and I'm just running circles in this little, ecosystem that you've created for me. Is that not true? Is there some truth to that?
There's absolute truth to that.
Okay.
I always thought kind of healthcare, especially in the private practice world, is flawed in so many ways, right? It's like our job as healthcare practitioners is to, help people and get people better. But, I guess in theory, if everyone was better, then we'd have to find another job.
Yeah, but everyone's not going to be better. Like there's no shortage of humans on this planet, Nick. Like you're going to have work anyways.
Right.
So I'm sorry. So I'm glad that made some sense to you, because that's just an internal thought that I've had forever. But so sorry, your ideology was around isolated movement, and then you try to find a way to connect it globally after you worked on those isolated movements. From there, it went to
really influences from everywhere, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Like there's courses everywhere, workshops everywhere, a lot of gurus in this space, in movement, in hands-on treatment, in just different schools of thought, I would say. When you're in this space long enough, you start to realize that every guru that created a school of thought is really just a paradigm. Right? They've all figured out a way to kind of repackage it in a different form, right? And you kind of have to take enough courses to start to realize they're actually talking about a very similar thing, right? And, again, being a very obsessive guy, because especially that's my line of work, me and a lot of the guys at Myo really tried to figure it out, tried to really understand it from, how does this relate to this and this and this, because they all actually kind of work.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
they're not necessarily wrong.
No, and it was always confusing for me as a therapist. It's like you can, do hands-on treatment with somebody. You can stretch them. You can strengthen them. You can sometimes even just talk to them. But maybe all four works, right? And, well, I guess it depends on the person because everyone's unique. But, you know, you start to really question things as you start to get more experience and, get more reps in a lot of ways, just treat more clients. You start to realize, wow, this is weird, right? Like what works for one person that has the exact same, like working diagnosis,
right?
Like the exact same basketball player comes in with the exact same knee problem,
yeah,
right? And I always used to question this, right? Because people would come in, like that person would come in and, I would do my thing, my treatment, right? You can call it a recipe because it's like, oh, the basketball player with a knee problem that kind of tweaked it doing this. Yeah. So you do that thing and then they get so much better, right? You'd see them the second time, third time, they're like, oh, you're like a magician. My knee pain is gone. Yeah. And then, of course, you're like, that's right.
Yeah, what up, son? Yeah.
Exactly. And then a week later, a similar case would show up, right? Because that person probably referred their friend who, they play basketball with or whatever. Same thing, same tweak, same knee injury, same type of pain or whatever. And then, they'd come in, they'd be like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I got this.
Yeah. Easy money.
Yeah. Well, kind of, right? You're almost like, oh, I know.
No
I
problem.
know what's up.
Yeah, here we go.
Go.
Yeah.
You do your thing, same recipe, basically.
Yeah.
And then next time they come in, you're like super confident. Yeah. You're kind of like, hey, so how's your knee?
Yeah.
Right.
Tell me how good it is.
Yeah. Basically,
tell me how amazing it is.
Basically, like, it's like ready to be like, yeah, just tell me. And they're like, oh, it's actually worse. And you're just like,
what?
Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you start to realize, and you have enough of those cases, you start to realize, right, you can't actually have a recipe for anything. Yeah. Because everyone is so different. Mm-hmm. And like at Myo, we always talk about this thing called the perfect cocktail, right? And we're always trying to find, like, as therapists, we're basically a mixologist, right?
Totally.
Every single session, and it's not even every single person, because every session is slightly different, right? Mm-hmm. Is slightly different. Is it in the morning? Is it at night? Are they a little cranky because of work compared to last time? Because that changes things. Yeah, totally right? Does. Yeah. So every session, we teach our entire team, it's our job to try to find the perfect cocktail, right? Because everything that's happened in our lives will dictate how we perceive anything, right? So if I go ahead and drink this cocktail and it's like, yo, that hit the spot. That's perfect, right? Perfect amount of sweetness, perfect amount of sour, whatever. Yeah. I pass that same cocktail to you. Exactly. You could be like,
well, that same cocktail might be really good at 9:00 at night, but it's probably not that good at 11 in the morning.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. But there could be a million reasons why. Yeah. Right. Maybe you sucked lemons when you were growing up. Do you know what I'm saying? That you can't perceive sour the same way I perceive sour. Yeah. It's like, yo, this is too sweet. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah,
because we've developed our apps in different ways.
Exactly. Yeah. We developed our apps in different ways. Every phone is slightly different, right? Yeah. So if somebody's to come in and, they're a knee problem and they had the other person had the knee problem and they're both basketball players, probably from the same team, same position, everything. Those are two unique experiences. Yeah. And it's our job as therapists to really find out. And that's, again, the discovery phase, right?
Find the uniqueness in that person.
Absolutely. So a lot of those experiences, and this comes with time. Like, again, I've been a physio for 13 years. So you see a lot of this stuff, right? Of like your standard treatments that don't work for the same cases, mm-hmm. or vice versa. The same person could get treatment 5 different ways and all of it works, right? And you're like, whoa, why is that muscle? Well, I thought that muscle was tight. Yeah. Wasn't I supposed to loosen that? Yeah. Right. But today I just talked them out of the tightness. That's weird. Right. Because maybe I made them think that it's okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So then you start to really dive deep into really just understanding human beings as human beings, right? You're not just understanding bodies anymore. You're not understanding muscles or ligaments or joints or all that kind of stuff that truthfully somebody like classified, right? Anatomy books were created.
Right.
They were created, right? But what wasn't created were, human beings that developed over time.
Right.
Right. And that's when we say integrated, we just I look at things as a whole. It's just a human being in front of you, not a muscle that can't fire because of whatever.
Yeah.
You have to understand why.
It sounds really stupid now that you're putting it like that. You're like, yeah, no, obviously.
But it's also very hard to teach, right? And that's why, because we used to always say it's like we expect everyone to be like Picasso, right? We're giving them a paintbrush and paint us a masterpiece every session. And that's hard. That's hard. It's easier to paint a certain way every single time. All you have to do is draw this.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's not how it works, right? It's not how it works, right? So we're teaching every therapist to, kind of mix that art and science. That yes, there's a lot of science behind what we do, and science will always guide us no matter what. But if you say there's no art to what we do, that's BS. Of course, there's an artistic piece and a there's
an improvisation of it as well too.
Absolutely.
I came into Chinatown 2 weeks ago, right when you guys opened, and
Thank you.
Of course, on freaking real. We'll get to that in a sec. And I was with Tyler. Yes. I was with Tyler, and you know my functionalities a bit. Tyler doesn't. And so there's an improvisation in that. I was like, okay, so now we just have to think on the go. Now we just okay, we're in, clients in front of me. This is a human. Now I need to figure this out. Go.
Yeah.
And taking that, I would always feel nervous of fuck, I'm going to take 30 minutes to talk to this guy. That's a lot of time. Right. What if they expect to be moving for an hour or like that, right? Now, for a guy like me, I really appreciate that. I listen, man, if you want to talk for 60 minutes, I'll talk for 60 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Teach me. Other people want to just be okay, I'm going to physio for a workout, or they're just going to get me to go do these exercises over and over again. So having that ability to just kind of well, let's try this, and then let's try this. Let's see how I react, and then we might do something else. But we'll just think about it. And then, maybe a client's well, fuck, does this person not know what they're doing? Sure. Honestly, that could be a thought. I definitely didn't look at it that way. I was okay, cool. This guy's taking the time. I appreciate that. Right. But certain people might look at that different ways. Do you think there's a connection? This is a bit off topic, but do you think there's a connection between do you pick up personality cues or personality types and associate them with certain muscle patterns or movements? For instance, a guy that talks really quick might have I don't know, fast twitch muscles. That's a terrible example, but I'm a guy, I can draw that parallel within myself, where I can be okay, I'm a guy that overanalyzes shit, so I'm going to constantly overanalyze and overcompensate in different ways because I'm making blind mistakes. Sure. Right? Is there certain for instance, if you're sitting down with a client the first time, this person's this way, so they're probably moving like that. Do you think like that at all?
Absolutely. Yeah? Absolutely.
Is that part of what you teach? You're internally your team? Yeah,
as part of the kind of discovery identify phase of our session, which is session 1, but it's actually every session because we expect discovery every single session. Right. But the first session, there's a lot of discovery. We do teach our therapists to kind of classify in some ways what type they are, but knowing that it's not only 5 types. It's an infinite number of types.
Yeah, an infinite amount of variations.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's where ideologies go wrong.
Exactly.
That's where ideologies go wrong. That's one of the, if we want to talk about takeaways in the past 18 months of my life, has just been don't go toward an ideology. And I've learned that in every facet. Right before you go on, you're Josh, what are you doing? What are you doing? I got 3 different things, right? Whether that's finance, whether that's digital, or whether that's athletics. Right. All 3 of those things have something in common where it's like there's many people that are very good in those fields. They all have found a pathway of what they do. That pathway is not necessarily right. That just means that they've gotten very good at that pathway,
Sure.
and they have found a clientele that works well within that
Perfect.
pathway.
Exactly.
Right? But that's not necessarily the only way to skin that cat. So, you know, I will gravitate towards certain ways of doing things because I think it's right. And I always try to like find, okay, so I found Nick. Nick's really good at doing this thing. He has this string theory, this holistic globalization of the body. I think it's really cool. I agree with it. Okay, so now I'm gonna go and try to find a physio that totally disagrees with you,
Sure.
and try to get their like point of view and go right and go that way. Now that's just kind of the way I move, and so I try to move away from ideologies as much as possible.
Sure.
Now, what I like about Myo, and I want to get into Myo a little bit here, is again, you don't necessarily go to one ideology. You're again, okay, we're here. You're a human. You're not a muscle. You're not a joint.
Right.
You're not this. You're a human. Let's figure out a way to crack you and get you on your way and really get you to understand this. There's an educational point, which I love as well. Now, let's get to the shits. You're the COO, the Chief Operating Officer of Myodetox. Now, very different, very, very, very different. Tangibly, what you do and how you do it,
Yep.
design-wise, brand-wise, culture-wise, people-wise, you've differentiated yourself. Those are 5 different factors right there. You've differentiated yourself in 10, 12 different ways from essentially what I see as the entire industry.
Right.
You've done something very, very different. In your role as a COO, I see all the time that you're doing these educational sessions, and I know you're a brand guy because I can just see how your mind works a little bit. Like you obsess over that type of stuff. Can you explain to me what the brand on a gears level, on a nitty gritty level of what are you trying to communicate within that brand, and what's the messaging you're trying to use to get that feel, that texture across? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, again, Myo's evolved a ton through the years. I wasn't the original founder, right? The original founder's from Toronto.
Don't give me a quick rundown because I know it, but listeners won't. So please.
Yep. So 2 guys. One guy was the original founder. His name's Vin Pham.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, he's Vinny Rehab. A lot of people follow him. He's a physiotherapist as well. Taught me a lot, of course, and actually a huge inspiration for myself. Because he's kind of like even further there, right? In the sense of like, he has this like, I just don't care. Like,
he's radical. He's different.
But you know, it like to me inspired me a lot in terms of like, you know, during the Physio Room. So Physio Room was my original company in 2011. During the Physio Room days, like I didn't feel like I was 100% myself, right? Because I felt very guarded about expressing myself and not being fully comfortable with yourself makes it a very difficult place to find happiness.
Yeah.
Right. And the transition of Myo, a lot of it was actually inspired by Vin, because Vin was one of those guys that's like, yeah, like I could wear a hat to work, you know, I can, you know, dress a certain way because that's just me. It's not like, you know, and he has tattoos everywhere. That's how he is, right? I don't have tattoos, but why he inspired me was now I can, oh wow, there's this guy that just will kind of do whatever and very well respected. So for me, it was like, cool, right?
I'm in.
And like now people make fun of me because I wear a hat to work every day because I'm just honestly just too lazy to fix my hair. But I was always a hat guy. Yeah. But then during the Physio Room days before Myo, I used to fix my hair every single day. Right. And then like I take off my hat now and they're like, you have hair? But the irony in that is like back in the day, like I would always fix my hair for work. And then the weekends I'd wear a hat. Yeah. And then people would see me in a hat and be like, I've never seen you in a hat.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's like, and then it was always like, oh, right. Because you don't actually know me.
Yeah.
Right. And which is weird. Right. Because like your best self always comes out when you're able to be yourself, truly be yourself. So something we constantly preach at Myo, be yourself, right? Don't try to be like me. Don't try to be like Vin. Don't try to be like it. Just be yourself. So Vin was the original founder. He founded started Myodetox in 2014. And then Scott, who's our CEO now, was one of his patients. So
this is in Toronto?
In Toronto,
yes.
Right. So they're both my partners now, of course. And together with a whole bunch of other people as well.
Of course.
We grow this company the way we think it should. And you asked me about like Myo and the brand and what it means. Like, again, it's evolved so much. Like right now, the thing we've always gone by is smart and simple. What that means is the way we deliver our product is very simple for a consumer, right? So people will understand it, right? It's like hardware, software. It's like your phone.
Yeah.
It's like you delete the apps, you download apps.
Yeah, I get it.
That's how simple it is. But behind that, it's very intelligent because we spend a lot of time to understand how to reprogram hardware and then how to reprogram software, right? In concept, very easy. It's like, you just delete apps and then you download apps when your body's better.
I love that you've changed your analogies. That's so fucking brilliant. Like the details of this is why I'm so attracted to it. Like you used to have an analogy with cars and then you probably realized that not everyone drives, but everyone has a phone. So that's a better analogy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I insulted a couple people. Talking about cars. Exactly. So I stopped the car. Car analogy is not something I'm good with. And then the second thing we really go by, and this means a lot to me, is longevity.
Yeah.
Our whole motto is future-proof your body. So that entire motto is about longevity, right? So you asked me earlier about like, isn't it weird that like in healthcare you fix people, but you actually want them to come back like deep down because it's your business? Well, yeah, it is weird, right? It is actually weird.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying people do that. I'm saying inherently it's kind of a flawed model.
No, that's what I'm trying to point out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like I'm sure like people aren't like that, especially therapists. That's why they got into, being a healthcare professional in the first place. But it is inherently flawed. So our whole motto of future-proof your body is to create longevity in people's lives, not to fix anyone. We're not here to fix anyone. We're here to give you a path of longevity. From a consumer side, meaning our clients, longevity. We want to be able for you to download any app you want and not be worried about glitching out because you understand your body. That's different, right? We're an education-based company, meaning we're here to teach you how to reprogram. You don't necessarily have to come back to reprogram. But what most people find with our company is because we're an education-based company, like it's kind of like going to your dentist every 6 months, right? You're going in for your check-in. Well, you're going in to kind of check in your phone, right?
Yeah.
Like we're seeing, can we upgrade this iPhone 7 to an iPhone 8 or iPhone 9 or iPhone 10? So that's what we do as longevity. And then on the flip side of this, which is extra important for me because my whole career has been like, how do I find longevity in this career? Because most therapists are therapists for, maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
It's tough on the body, right?
And on the mind.
And on the mind. And for in our industry, it's never been a career of longevity, right? Because you work as a therapist for a certain period of time. And then most therapists will either, eventually open their own clinic or open their own business, or they stay within that profession. And when they open their own clinic, because nobody taught business back in the day, including me, like when I started Physio in 2011, I knew nothing. I had no idea what I was doing, right? I just kind of like did it.
Yeah, you figured it out. Yeah,
you figured it out, but it was hard. It was harder than most people would ever imagine. Right. And when I say longevity, like I'm trying to create longevity for my team, for people within this industry, to give them a path that you can actually, become an entrepreneur and actually know what you're doing. Right. So for everyone on our team, we train, right? If you want to take on like a leadership position in our company, we train leadership, right? Because I don't want, and it doesn't mean you have to, open a clinic with us or be one of the managers or directors in our company. It means I just want to train you so that if during this path you decide to go off and do your own thing because you have your own dreams, then, well, let me at least help you and support you along the way so that when you go out and do your own thing, you don't just do it and become very cranky in 2 years, realizing that you don't know how to lead a team. You don't know how to manage a team. You don't know how marketing works, brand works, et cetera, right? So we're here to actually teach people and train people in leadership so that people within this industry can have longevity in their careers, right?
Fill the holes that you once had and teach throughout that. And that probably goes back to you care.
Yeah.
You just care about your employees, about your clients, right?
Like the only reason I started my own company in the first place is because I got stagnant. I was a physio for 5 years and I didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
I ended up quitting for 6 months because I was like, I don't even know if this is for me.
Yeah.
Because you start questioning everything.
Yeah.
All those things I was telling you about, it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Right? Then I'm like, okay, well, the next logical step is I guess I got to open up my own clinic. Then I open up my own clinic and I do that for 4 or 5 years. And I got stagnant again because I realized that I didn't know how to grow a business. I didn't understand business because I opened my second clinic in 2015 and that was hard. The hardest thing ever was opening that second clinic because I didn't know business at all.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know how to build team culture, not in a tangible way, right? Because these days, the growth of a company is purely based on team culture. Right. But how do you develop team culture and how do you sustain team culture? Well, it's more than high fives and pizza and beer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely more than that.
Yeah, totally.
It's understanding what people want and why people are even there in the first place. That's important. And like I said earlier, it's like, how do I support the dreams of everyone that supports me? That's very key. Any entrepreneur who wants to be successful has to really understand the people, right? So I spend all my time teaching all the time, just teaching. I want people to learn, and I know that they're constantly supporting my dreams, so
support theirs. That's a beautiful way to bring it full circle. We just went off. There's a couple of things that I have to ask you.
Go for it.
Because you know what? I'm not going to live with myself if I let you walk away. There was a point, I believe in 2017, where you said you were going up to your clinic to go work. You turned around and you're like this. I don't want to go in there. And you went and you worked at a coffee shop. What was that about?
Yeah,
because that's intense. Like that's your spot.
Yeah.
That's a huge moment. And that's a moment I don't understand on the surface level.
Yeah. Not a lot of people know that, number one.
Yeah.
I know I wrote about it recently. In 2017, I made the decision to rebrand Physio Room as Myodetox and basically join with these guys from Toronto to collectively, have a larger voice. And hopefully impact more people in the world. And in 2017, that was easily the hardest year of my life. Easily, right? For 6 months to a year, it was tough, right?
Yeah.
Because that day that I announced that to the team, I couldn't sleep for days leading up to it.
Yeah.
Just, I couldn't believe how difficult it was, right? And the shock, the anger, everything, every emotion you can imagine was there. And I felt like I let so many people down. And I take that very personally and hard because I've always been a people person. Mm-hmm. Everything I've done is for people, and like I said, like I inherently care. I do. When somebody leaves my company, I always wonder why, right? And I say it to this day, I don't mind if anyone leaves my company or leaves me, but I just want to make sure they're leaving for the right reasons and not the wrong ones. Right.
Yep.
And I know, and I think, but during 2017, a bunch of people left the company.
Crazy.
And, they'll probably never admit it, and I'll probably never know, but I think for the wrong reasons.
Wow.
Right. And in 2017, absolutely. There was days I'd walk up to the clinic and I would just peek in the window, and you can just get that sense that I wasn't welcome.
Wow.
Right. And
Jesus.
I would walk away. I would literally walk back to the car and I'd sit there, and some people don't even know. Like, I cried at night, right? Damn. Right, because I felt like I let everything go, right? But deep down I knew it was what was needed to be done, right? Because Physio Room was not the platform for us to do what I personally intended to do, which is, again, like, support the people that I wanted to support. I didn't have the tools to do that, right? And I wrote recently on Instagram that I can't call myself an entrepreneur back then. Just because you own your own company doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur. I can call myself an entrepreneur now, and only because every day I'm willing to learn more and more, right? And there's a big difference in owning your own business and really understanding, like, what your purpose is, right? So
wow.
Again,
Wow.
It's just tough.
Super
Toughest
tough.
year of my life, for sure.
Super tough and super hard to believe. See your team now. That's hard to believe, man. That's crazy. Really hard to comprehend, but I understand it. And I know, I don't want to say I know, you're an A-type personality.
Yeah.
I know other A-type personalities that steer gigantic ships, maybe sometimes the wrong way.
Right.
And they're still steering a gigantic ship. And, you kind of cracked a code there for me in a sense of, like, wow, maybe you can steer a gigantic ship and be wrong.
Sure.
Like, I always thought that, like, oh, maybe this person does it this way and that person's right, or the other person does it this way and that person's wrong. Well, the size of their ship will determine whether they're right or wrong. Fuck, That's kind of not true. Like, that's kind of not true.
For sure. Yeah.
And
for sure.
I never really realized that. And that brings a lot more value to maybe smaller guys with smaller ships.
Yeah.
Which is really beautiful. Last thing. Nick, like I said, you're an A-type. I know other A-types. You work your ass off consistently. You do care. You don't lack interpersonal skills. You maintain relationships. You have a wife, girlfriend? Wife.
Yes. Very supportive wife, by the way.
Must be. And you care about your employees, your friends. You give back with day one, which is something we didn't even touch on, which I feel day one's awesome. Let me just be on record to say that.
Thank you.
Yeah, shout out to the whole team over there. Shout out Jen and all those guys over there. It's amazing. You have those skills. You also drive relentlessly in one direction, right? What if you're wrong? Like, what if you're wrong?
Right.
Like, really? Like, I ask myself this all the time. I don't have an answer for it. And I've asked, people that are much older than me that same question, and I get different answers all the time. Like,
Right.
What if you're freaking wrong, dude?
Well, I guess it's, number one, it's how do you define wrong or right? Right? Because, the biggest thing for me is enjoying every single day. And I love the people I work with. So what's wrong with that? You know what I mean?
Good
so
point.
Like, wrong in what sense, right? Like, well, this company's going to blow up one day. Well, that's not wrong, because I'm having fun every single day. And I have more purpose now than I ever have, which people still ask, like, why do you still treat, like, my own team is like, why do you still treat? Right? But I'm like, it's different, right? Because every person that I treat or see, there's so much more intention behind it. There's so much more purpose behind it, right? Because I do absolutely want to change the world, right? The entire team does. And so when you ask, like, what if I'm wrong? I don't think we're wrong, because we're enjoying the process.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
and that's what life is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't define wrong in what happens in the end, because I don't even know what the end means, right? I don't know what the end means, but
let's not go down that hole. Let's not go down that hole. Doesn't mean Jack come for me, but you're on to something, man. And I don't know what the story is or where the story ends, how it changes, or anything. I just know that I'm really going to enjoy watching it and reading it. I'll tell you that much. There's a lot of value in everything you do and the team does, your leadership styles. There's a lot to unpack within the last hour and a bit or however long we did. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
And I feel like, maybe we could have, you're great at making things simple, but there's so much there. Like, this is one I'll re-listen to.
Right.
And be like, oh fuck, like I kind of got that, but I kind of didn't. Like, what is your? And I'll probably just like hit you up and be like, what did you mean when you said this? Like, I get what you said on this level, but then when you look at it this way, what like that's the type of value that I want. I try to get out of guests. So it's really empowering in a way to connect like that. So I appreciate that, and I know that's why, I really wanted you here.
Awesome.
And so I appreciate your time, because time is the most valuable thing, as you know. Yep. Very, very well. And so that means a lot to us and to the team as well. So thank you for that. If people want to get at you or hold of you or say, Nick, please treat me, how do we get a hold of you? Where do you want people to follow you at, or what's your deal?
Yeah. So, Instagram, it's at Nick Lowe Physio.
Sweet.
If you want to book a session with me, I'm available online just like everyone else is. I'm not special.
Are you really?
Yeah. So it's myodetox.com. Just I don't have a lot of availability. Yeah. I don't treat as much as I used to, of course, but I still love seeing clients. That's my passion. So happy to treat anybody. But my team is amazing, right?
Yeah.
The entire team is amazing.
Yes.
So I'm not special, right? We train everyone to be able to deliver that kind of Myodetox way of thinking. Mm-hmm. So everyone in the team is very capable, and everyone in the team is actually great. So you don't have to book in with me. I love treating though, so absolutely you can book a session with me if you need.
Hey, go check out their Chinatown location, because architecturally, that's
right.
You have gold faucets, dude. The f is that? Hell?
I'm a design guy and a
Jesus.
brand guy. I just the whole point of like Chinatown, and also we open a clinic in West Hollywood as well, just in January.
Right.
Is to be able to change that conversation.
Jesus
right?
Christ.
We always say lifestyle. Like, what we do as healthcare professionals and therapists, physios, RMTs, chiros, we have all of them, is to provide you the tools to allow you to live the lifestyle you want. That's what we do.
Right.
So if it doesn't speak lifestyle, then how does that make any sense?
Listen,
right?
man, all I'm saying is never in my life have I taken a photo of a freaking door handle, and I did that like last week. When in your life? I got there, I had a 7 a.m. session. I got there like 6:45. I'm like, wow, look at this damn door handle. And I like snapped it. I was like, wow. And there was no other place. I mean, the way it contrasted on, like, it's not a black, whatever. I don't want to get into it. I know it's not gold. It's like a brass or so. I don't, whatever, man. I'm going to talk to you later. Yes. We'll go there. I'm like, what's with this and these lines right here?
Thank you very much.
Anyways, it's beautiful. Like the lighting you have coming, anyway, whatever. Go check it out and you'll know what the hell I'm talking about. Or check out their Instagram, because there's a ton of cool angles and photos on there as well. But you got to see it. Go see it. Yes. See it to believe it. The team there's amazing. Nick, we got into a ton of what you have done externally in this world. We didn't get to internally, but that's okay. We could go for 3 hours. We totally could. We go for 4.
Yes.
Bring the tea. We'll run the tea back and we'll get it going.
Next
but
time.
We'll make sure to get you back and have those conversations as well. And the next time that you stop by, you're gonna have a whole nother chapter to explain. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing and reading that story. So thank you, Nick, for your time.
Thank you very much.
That's a wrap. Thanks, guys.